Hi, welcome back to Jonesy Chats Wrestling. We're here once again to discuss this past week's WWE. I'm joined by regular co-host on the SmackDown side of things, none other from the YouTube channel SCW. Steve, how are you this evening, Steve?
Thank you very much for having me on. Thank you for a lovely introduction as well. It's great to be back. It's a bit like the Brand for Brand Invitational, isn't it? I've moved over to Mondays once again. But no, it's good to be here. And
It's always good to have your opinion, Steve, that's for sure. So what we're going to do tonight, we're going to discuss this past week's Monday Night Raw, as always. And there's a whole lot to talk about. There's a spoiler there, but let's get to it then. So we're going to start with Monday Night Raw. So obviously Monday Night Raw, coming from the Tropicana field again, the show opens up with a video package. It's got Sheamus and Drew, kind of shows that they're best friends and how Sheamus turned on Drew last week with a bro kick. This then leads to the show starting. We've got Adam Pearce coming to the ring. He then introduces the returning Shane McMahon. Shane said it's great to be back during WrestleMania season. Adam Pearce then announces Drew McIntyre will defend his WWE Championship in the Elimination Chamber match. Shane then asked Pearce, who have you got as the other five superstars? Pearce said that they're all former champions. The five superstars are revealed as Randy Orton, Jeff Hardy, AJ Styles, The Miz, Mr. Money in the Bank, Shane and Sheamus. Shane then congratulated Pearce and left. My thoughts of this were, I don't get why Shane McMahon is there. It's great that Adam Pearce is announcing sort of this match for the upcoming pay-per-view a week on Sunday. Shane McMahon kind of had no real impact. I don't really get what the purpose of him being there. He's never really been a GM, so I don't really get why he's there. And if we talk about sort of the people that are announced, my feeling was, okay, if you look at it realistically, who can win out of the people? There's only one person really probably that can win against sort of, I would say, Drew, and that's probably Sheamus. What were your thoughts of this segment, Steve, in the announcement?
it's a very interesting sort of newsworthy start to Raw, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I enjoyed that video package, by the way, of Sheamus and Drew. I thought it was very well put together. I was surprised that we went from what was building to a one-on-one match straight to this announcement to the Elimination Chamber. Shane McMahon coming in, like you say, was a bit out of nowhere. I think they wanted the impact of 2016. And I remember that was one of the first shows we ever recorded together back in SoundCloud back in the day, if you remember. Which we're going quite a way back there. But literally, like, had such an... But in 2021, 5 years later, he doesn't really have that same impact. But I do think we've got something there with Shane McMahon. I think it's not going to be a one and done. I think that we're looking like almost a bit like a heel Shane McMahon, I feel, is going to be in the works once again. We've moved away from Raw Underground. I feel like, and tell me if I'm wrong here before I kind of talk about the chamber match itself, but I felt a little bit like there was a few digs at Adam Pearce, a little bit of undermining. You know, he's kind of like, you're doing a great job, by the way. You're doing really, really well, and I really like this. But you just feel like there's just something bubbling underneath here. I don't know if Shane wants to take over in an authority figure, which, of course, we were told we're going to get no more of this from McMahon's in WWE. But credit to them. It's been 2.5 years since we've had it. Or is it going to lead to something else? Of course, we'll go to talk more about what Shane McMahon done in the show very shortly. But as for the Elimination Chamber itself, I kind of agree with you. I don't feel that there's so many winners in here. I think 3 out of the 5 have a chance of walking away with the championship. Drew, of course, retaining. Sheamus, like you said, there is a small chance, and unfortunately, I can't give the credit to the Twitter handle that did this post, but I think it's like Turnbuckle something. They said the idea of Randy Orton winning the championship, and then, of course, Edge then actually going to face him at WrestleMania. I think it's still likely it's going to be Edge and Roman, but of course this would be a way of getting around if they wanted to do Edge and Orton one more time. But yeah, I don't know how it's going to pan out really, but certainly it's an interesting field. Jeff Hardy is my one real not sure why he's there.
Yeah. No, definitely. So I'm going to go back to you on kind of that point then. So Jeff Hardy, obviously this is a guy that hasn't won a match in February yet. He won a tag match, but before that he was losing to people such as Elias. I don't really get kind of why he's in this kind of spot really. He's obviously never really sort of done anything apart from winning the Continental title. He has been a world champion many years ago. I think the thing with this is they're just throwing him in there to get a name out there. I think somebody like a Damian Priest would have been much better at this spot. And for me, I think it's the wrong choice. In terms of another interesting anecdote, I would say Shane McMahon is a heel. That would be interesting. Maybe, I don't know if I really got that from it. What was quite funny, I don't know if you noticed this as well, Steve, is on the way when Shane McMahon was out, on his way out, AJ Styles came out with Omos, and there was no real acknowledgement from Omos and Shane McMahon, considering the whole of the summer last year was spent with Shane McMahon going, great job every week. It was quite ironic. What was your thoughts?
Yeah, it was a bit strange, wasn't it, with the old stare down with Shane and Omos. I kind of feel like they were trying to tell us, like, we remember that from last summer, but I kind of feel they kind of brushed over it as well. It was almost like, yeah, we'll carry on. But yeah, it was a bit of a bizarre sort of way to crossover, but it's great to see AJ Styles come out to the ring and, of course, have his interaction with Adam Pearce as well, which I found quite entertaining.
Definitely. I'm going to go to one other theory I've got here regarding the Elimination Chamber match while I think of it. With The Miz, do we think The Miz, there's a potential? I've got an idea that The Miz gets eliminated from this match and then Drew obviously gets the last pinfall. We can then get The Miz cash in later. Do you think that's a potential, or do you think they're going to save this Money in the Bank briefcase a lot longer?
It's certainly a potential, and the reason for it is the fact that, I mean, if you look back to the first ever cash-in with Money in the Bank by Edge back in 2006, that was done after an Elimination Chamber match at New Year's Resolution. It would be the perfect time to do it. The only thing I would say is that if The Miz has received a Claymore in the first 5 minutes and the match is knocked senseless, there is a chance we may not see him either. So it's a 50-50. It's not something to rule out. I would hope it will be saved for another day, but I don't know about you.
I agree with you 100%. I think it'd be a waste of the briefcase. I think the main thing I would say with this announcement is the people they've announced, they just don't feel credible. Like, as you said, Jeff Hardy, he hasn't done anything to get a shot. The Miz, besides the Money in the Bank briefcase, he's got that briefcase. Why does he need to be in this match? I think this is WWE panicking. Obviously, they've not got on for the pay-per-view. Adam Pearce did the best he could. Shane McMahon's fine. I really want to see them start paying off these returns. Like, Shane McMahon coming back, it's great. It gives us something to talk about, but it was so sort of underwhelming. He was there. What was the purpose in being there other than to just say to Adam Pearce, carry on, carry on? Have you got anything else to add before we go to the first match of the night?
Well, obviously, I know Shane was backstage. Was that after the first match or before the first match?
That was before the first match. So AJ Styles come out. Shane does go backstage and he interacts with Drew McIntyre regarding the chamber.
Yeah, exactly. Because Drew was questioning the idea of him versus Sheamus should have been the one-on-one match, but now he's in the chamber match. And Shane McMahon was almost along the opinion of we needed a bigger match for the pay-per-view, which for me just gave me one sort of teeny tiny crazy idea, because Shane McMahon coming back at WrestleMania season doesn't feel like an accident for me. And although his impact was minimal on this show, I've got a feeling he's going to have more of an impact. And I wonder if he wants to be taken over as a GM, or Shane McMahon loves a match at WrestleMania. I wonder if the best in the world wants to throw himself in the championship match at WrestleMania, because Drew McIntyre probably is not going to be facing Edge at WrestleMania. And if they're going to keep putting off the Sheamus match because they want a bigger match, in Shane McMahon's head, maybe he would consider himself a bigger match and a bigger draw than Sheamus in that role. Could you see the ego of Shane?
You could definitely see the ego of Shane McMahon growing, but I don't know if we'd see that at WrestleMania. I think definitely there is room there for him to be a heel. His work as a heel is great. It'd be interesting to see what happens. I hope you're right regarding this. I hope we do see more of him, but I'm not too sure. You got anything else you want to add before we go into that first match?
No, I'm ready to kick into the first match. We'll have to see what will happen with Shane in the next number of weeks.
No problem. So two of the contenders for this Elimination Chamber match, we've got Jeff Hardy versus AJ Styles and Omos. This was actually a really, really good match. Obviously, they've had a lot of matches before, previously like on SmackDown for the Intercontinental title. I really enjoyed this. I think, obviously, AJ Styles getting a windfall. We expected that. And it was obviously a windfall by the calf crusher submission. Obviously, Jeff did a great job of selling here. It's interesting to see this. I thought they've chose the right person to win. This further cements the reason why Jeff Hardy's not winning this match. What's your thoughts, Elimination Chamber?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, usually 50-50 booking is the way in WWE, so Jeff will probably get his revenge somewhere, but I agree it's not coming in the chain. And what I really liked about it, it reminded me almost as their past, just after SummerSlam last year, these two had almost a bit of a mini rivalry over the Intercontinental Championship. And during that was a problem with Jeff Hardy's leg. And it almost felt like they revisited that idea, almost as if they carried on from a feud that happened 6 months ago, which was fun in a way because of the fact that you kind of had to remember that happened. It was a nice little touch there in the match. But as for a match, I thought it was very good. Like you said, the right person doesn't have momentum going into this Elimination Chamber match, but it's very important that AJ Styles does. So the right winner definitely went over here.
Definitely. We then had a fun backstage segment. We had Riddle and Keith Lee. Keith Lee was shown obviously getting ready. Riddle went up to him. Riddle this time has a black eye. Riddle did his usual routine. He said that when he was last week, he watched Air Bud movies. Keith Lee wondered if it was smart for Riddle to keep going after Lashley in the United States title, even though he continually loses. Riddle kept talking about the Air Bud. Lee then obviously says that sort of it's not wise. He basically says that he's going to beat him later in the night. Riddle then thanked him and said him good luck. What was your thoughts of this segment?
Yeah, it was interesting backstage. I mean, the Air Bud stuff aside, it wasn't really for me. But when you actually got to
reference this week, that's what that is. That was their pop culture reference this week, I believe.
It was indeed, yeah. I mean, they have to throw them in where they can, WWE. But I mean, when it comes to with Riddle and Keith Lee, when it got to the nitty-gritty, I found it quite interesting. What I really found interesting was the way that Keith Lee almost said, you shouldn't be going for Lashley, you shouldn't be going for the Hurt Business. It almost felt like he's not got belief in his friend, because these two have kind of been watching each other's backs when they've been in NXT. It felt here almost like a slightly heelish style from Keith Lee, but certainly a confident style anyway, nonetheless. And yeah, I was looking forward to the match later in the evening. I know these two have got good chemistry, and I've not seen them wrestle in WWE before. I believe this was the first time, but yeah, I was quite pumped for this match. I'm not a big fan of Riddle's character work on the main roster, but I'm always a fan in rings. So these two, I imagine, was going to be an absolute barn burner.
Yeah, it was. I think it was an interesting segment. Riddle's definitely got a great comedic value. I'm not too sure how the comedy works with sort of Keith Lee to a certain point. I enjoyed it. I think the only thing I would like to have seen, I think this was a shame to throw Keith Lee sort of back in this spot. There was no real big mention of his return. There was no real big build up to him coming back. But from an in-ring perspective, I was looking forward to this match. Have you got anything else you want to add before we go to the next part?
No. At this point, I think that I'm just quite enjoying Raw at this point, and looking forward to the next segment.
Definitely. Okay, so we then obviously had Sheamus walking backstage to Adam Pearce. Sheamus said that Drew McIntyre wanted to defend the world title against him, but they've put him in the Elimination Chamber. Sheamus complained about Pearce not giving the four-time world champion like Sheamus the respect he deserves. Adam Pearce then tried to pacify Sheamus. Sheamus then yelled at Pearce, when he unleashes brutality against the other superstars in Chamber, it's Pearce's responsibility. My thoughts this promo, it was a great promo from Sheamus. It further shows his new heel character. His heel work is some of the best, in my opinion. I think he's so good as a heel, and it further cements these odds against Adam Pearce. What were your thoughts of this promo?
I think Sheamus was on the money. I think that he got himself this spot. He thought himself had a one-on-one match. I think he had the right to feel the way he felt, and he delivered a fantastic promo. Sheamus really is doing the best work of his career, and it was continued here. I love the way this was delivered, and I not only did I sympathise a little bit with Sheamus, but I really believed the fact that he said he's going to make people suffer in that chamber, and you felt it and you believed it, and that's a great thing. When a heel says these words and you believe those words, it shows that Sheamus really is on the roll right now.
Yeah, he is definitely. We then had obviously this dream match. It was T-Bar and Slapjack with Mustafa Ali and Mace versus the New Day, Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods. This was a really fun match. Some of the highlights of the match included sort of Mustafa Ali on commentary. He was all right. I really enjoyed his work. He was absolutely hilarious. And this then ended up with kind of the New Day getting the pinfall, really. So we're getting the pinfall, and Kofi obviously executed Daybreak, gets the pinfall there. And this is the New Day beating Retribution. At the end of the match, we obviously have Xavier Woods shouting out, "Where's Reckoning? Where's Reckoning? Get Reckoning." What were your thoughts of this match, and did you enjoy it?
The match didn't do too much for me, but I must admit that Mustafa Ali's commentary was definitely on point, was fantastic, was a different level. And this guy needs as much opportunity on the microphone as possible, because, he is representing what this Retribution idea is meant to be. And I like the direction they're giving him and where they're allowing him to go. I know that some of the stuff he did recently was seen as a bit risque when he was talking on Raw Talk all them a couple of months ago. But the fact they've actually now allowed this to evolve into his character and actually deliver it on TV, on Raw, on a commentary segment, I thought was fantastic. And like you said there, after there with the match with the Xavier Woods Reckoning kind of comedy thing at the end there, that was quite amusing. Obviously, we're not actually going to get that match, I would assume.
No.
Ali literally had an issue with Retribution losing. He's like, I give you ample opportunity. And I just love the fact as well, it's like, it's time for you guys to eat. It's time for us to eat. Yeah. When do I get to eat? I did love all those wordings. And maybe he needs to have a word with Roman on SmackDown, because he's head of the table after all.
Yeah, nice one. I think the thing with it, it's a fun segment. Ali's great in this role. I'm really hoping this does lead to kind of Retribution splitting down the line. I think Ali can do some great singles work. I'm enjoying where this is going. I think the fun thing with it is this is probably leading to Kofi Kingston and Ali. I think we'll probably get that match maybe as a kickoff match on one of the pay-per-views, I hope. Are you looking forward to the Kofi Kingston Ali match when that eventually happens? Because surely it's got to happen.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, but I think the big mistake was last week when Xavier Woods got the pinfall victory over Mustafa Ali. I think that was a mistake. You needed Ali to win that match. I think it would have. I feel that slightly the wheels have come off of this rivalry at the second. But what I would say is what's keeping it together is the words of Ali. He is literally keeping this together. And without him, I think that this would be done for me as an opinion. But at the moment, I'm still looking forward to it.
Definitely. We then obviously had this promo with Lacey Evans and Ric Flair. Rick basically said the reason why he's still around, he said that Rick put over Charlotte for being the greatest female wrestler. She doesn't need him. Rick basically said that their relationship with him and Lacey is casual. And he told Oscar that they're coming for the title. Lacey Evans with the next women's title. This then leads to Charlotte Flair basically coming to the ring. They end up sort of trading kind of insults. Ric Flair then suggested Lacey and Charlotte should become a tag team. Rick called Lacey Charlotte 2.0. And then basically Rick said that if Lacey beats Charlotte, she'll get a shot at Oscar. Evans then hit Charlotte with the microphone to knock her out of the ring. Evans then threw Charlotte into the steps. We then go to kind of the break. What were your thoughts of this promo?
I actually enjoyed the promo. The segments with Charlotte and Lacey is two halves, unfortunately. But what I would say is when we got to this part with the microphone and the verbal exchanges, I quite enjoyed it. I love Lacey's heel character. I think she does very well in her role. There was a bit more clarity on the relationship with her and Ric Flair, which we got. The fact that Charlotte actually, I think, had some good words to come back and say what she had to say about Ric Flair, because I think some people probably are thinking that. However disrespectful that may come across to a legend that is a 16-time world champion. I really enjoyed this overall. I thought that it was well put together. My problem is what followed. I don't know about you.
Yeah, we'll go into that then. So this ends up coming off the break. They're in a match. And this match was really, really kind of disappointing. If I try and go on a positive, I thought this was a massive match to give away on TV with no real sort of, you're not building it up beforehand, because you've been advertising this is one of your main sort of things on Raw recently. So they have this match. This is obviously kind of messy. It's really disappointing. You really would have thought Lacey Evans and Charlotte, they're both good workers, so I can't understand how bad it was. This ends up by the end of it where Charlotte basically ends up getting disqualified, and Lacey Evans wins by disqualification, basically. So that's the way that she wins the match. What were your thoughts of the match, good and bad? Go for it.
Worst match of the year. And that's really sad to say, because like you said, they're both good workers. And unfortunately, something just wasn't clicking on this night. I noticed that Lacey, I don't know what it was, felt like she was particularly having an off night. There was a point where Charlotte ran to the turnbuckle and paused where she was supposed to be countered by Lacey, and no one did anything. And Charlotte kind of just stood there and waited for the slap. It was particularly awkward to watch. It's a shame because, like you said, this should not have been given away on free TV. This should have been the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view match, and then perhaps the championship match for Lacey should have been at Fastlane. What I would have said was that maybe on a different day, this would be a better match, but sadly on this night, it just didn't pull off, unfortunately, and it's a shame all round because they're really trying to make this rivalry work, and a lot of people are souring on it.
Definitely. I think the problem I've got with this is the fact they didn't get Lacey get the clean win. I think Lacey's going into what chance does she have against Oscar? You're basically painting Lacey's in this slot and this number one contendership just on a fluke, and I think it's just really bad. I guess kind of it was great to see kind of the match in that respect, but how disappointing it was. If this is going to be on a pay-per-view, sort of maybe at Fastlane or something, I hope not. I hope this is going to be one and done. Really, they were talking of this being at WrestleMania. Thank God, based on what we see, that's not the case. I bet you agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, now you would say that you're not looking forward to seeing a rematch between these two. And that's really what the shame has come from this, because like you say, Lacey Evans should have gone over clean on this, or in some ways she should have got a pinfall or a submission or something. It doesn't necessarily have to be clean, but it has to be more decisive. I think that's the word I'm looking for, is decisive. I think what would have been good, I mean, we had this thing a few weeks ago. If you go back to like Legends Night, for example, with Ric Flair, when that was supposed to be the time he pulled the ankle of Charlotte Flair, and we were unsure if that was going to be, legit, whether he was turning or whether it was just an accident. I'd have liked if we'd have built that over a number of weeks and then we got to this match where he sort of was hanging around with Lacey Evans and Charlotte wasn't okay with it. Perhaps there'd have been a couple of things which would made you think, is Ric Flair turning or not? And you'd have had an impact turn here. I think this would have been the right place to have tried to do that, maybe a bit longer term storytelling. But unfortunately, things are booked week to week on WWE, and you can tell that with this rivalry. It's been a bit of a mess, and it's just a shame. Like you said there, I don't think we want this at WrestleMania now. This needs to be closing off before. We need to move Charlotte to perhaps arguably a bigger program. Lacey can move on, perhaps maybe a battle royal. Maybe that's where she can establish herself winning in that sort of environment instead.
Yeah, definitely, I agree with you. We then obviously had this promo from Edge. Edge comes out. He basically says that he could challenge anybody, any of the world champions. It then ends up kind of with Edge basically saying he doesn't like Drew's odds of leaving as WWE champion. We then get the Miz to come out. Miz and Morrison. This time they're joined by the returning Angel Garza. And what this ends up being is basically a promo. It ends up with Edge basically just destroying basically Miz. He totally obliterates him. It makes him look like about that small. And what were your thoughts of the Edge promo?
Edge with the Miz was really good. The way that he showed that he's the opportunist and how he's able to put make people worried about who's going to go for them, but yet the Miz just says his game plan immediately. It says like, well, you're a bit silly for doing that. I really like that. I thought that was really fun. The fact that Edge is now going to hold off his decision to after Elimination Chamber means we haven't got to keep going into each show repeating the same thing. So that's a positive as well. I think so. Overall, this did what it needed to do.
Definitely, I agree with you. I think it's fun. It's fun to see Edge out there. Edge is your main man going into WrestleMania, besides probably Roman Reigns. So I think you have to keep him strong. The fact he's destroying people such as the Miz, it's fun, and I like the way that they're teasing the Money Bank cash in. I think that's clever as well. Have you got anything else you want to add before we go to the sort of next segment / match?
Not ready for the next segment.
Okay, so we then had Damian Priest with Bad Bunny, returning Bad Bunny from last week against the returning Angel Garza with Miz and Morrison. This was a fun match. They didn't get sort of a massive amount of time. Damian Priest was able to pick up the windfall. Key parts of the match, Bad Bunny was able to grab the Money Bank briefcase, and then he was able to slide it into the ring, so it made it look like Morrison and Miz had used it, so they got sent to the back. And obviously, this is Damian Priest's second win on the main roster, so he's obviously on a bit of a roll at the moment. So Damian Priest is your winner here, and I think this is key leading to potentially a tag match. I don't know if we're going to get this at WrestleMania or beforehand, but it's Bad Bunny, Damian Priest versus Miz and Morrison. I think that's the way they're going down. My only question with regarding that match is, what is the Money Bank briefcase? How is that going to come into play? What's your thoughts on the match and that statement, Steve?
Interesting statement you make there. I think the match was good. I'll touch on the match first and we'll come back to that statement. I think the match was good. I think that rather than Bad Bunny, you could call him Good Bunny, really, after this week, because he managed to get people ejected from ringside. Bad Bunny apparently is the top 4 selling merch things in WWE. They've made over $500,000 for WWE and him in a short time they've made merch. So clearly what they're doing with Bad Bunny is connecting, it's working to a portion of the audience. So you have to say props to what WWE are doing, even if other people are not as aware or as invested in the work that's going on. This storyline is working. It's getting Damian Priest over. It was good to get Angel Garza in this spot, another Hispanic worker as well. So the fact is there's a chance there you could perhaps maybe get him a bit over. Yes, he was defeated this week, but Garza isn't in the position right now to be, in a sort of top mid-card, top of the card position. But to get him on TV is important. And these segments are very much watched on YouTube. They're the most popular segments by a country mile. So anyone that's involved with this right now is coming out smelling of roses. And the one that's the most smelling of roses is Damian Priest. And I think WWE coming back to this tag match would be foolish if they didn't do it at WrestleMania. I totally agree with you. I'm not sure they're going to drag this out to WrestleMania. I think that's the struggle in a storyline perspective. But if they could get this match on Mania, I think this is a win-win for everybody involved.
I agree. I think you made some excellent points. I think the thing with it is you can drag it out by Miz and the Money in the Bank briefcase. That can be a whole episode. Clearly, the Miz is taking care of it. Elimination Chamber is in that chamber match. But it's fun. It's great to see them getting the rub, as you said. Bad Bunny's obviously creating interest. And the fact he's giving that rub to Damian Priest, as you said in last week's podcast, I agree with you. I think it's, in hindsight, it's a really good move by WWE. Credit to them. Definitely. We then obviously had this backstage promo. It was with Drew McIntyre. And what Drew's doing this week is obviously he's basically talking about his contenders going into kind of the Money Bank briefcase. He basically says it's WrestleMania season. Expect the unexpected, like Sheamus did to him last week. Drew said Sheamus severed a 20-year friendship. But if he wanted a title shot against Sheamus, all he had to do was ask. Drew said he has to focus on Randy Orton tonight. Drew talked about all the Finns against him, like Sheamus, Orton. And Edge hasn't chosen his WrestleMania opponent, but there's still Styles and Hardy to worry about. It basically said if Drew's back against the wall, he's going to basically tear their faces off. For me, love the aggression in the promo. It was really good. It's great to see Drew is angry. He's fired up. He's ready for whoever's coming against him. I enjoyed it. What were your thoughts of the promo?
Yeah, it was good. It was a top babyface promo. It was a promo of a babyface WWE champion. I think they did a good job of it.
Okay, we then get this announcement. We have the announcement that's going to be official for the Elimination Chamber. Asuka defends a Raw Women's title against Lacey Evans. For me, when I saw that announcement, because they said so little when Lacey won earlier in the night by the fluke, I just was like, what are they doing? What were your thoughts of that announcement?
I must admit, I was the opposite. I was kind of okay with it because we finally got the Raw Women's Championship being defended on pay-per-view again rather than having these these tag team, championships dominating Raw. So it's good to see that we're finally getting the Raw Women's Championship as the focus again. Lacey Evans is a different challenger because, of course, the easy way to go is Charlotte or Asuka to turn heel on one another and then have another match and series that they did last summer. So if we're going to do that match again, we need to do it on a big grand stage. You can know where I'm going with that. But in the meantime, Asuka versus Lacey is something different, it's something fresh. It's for a B pay-per-view. This, for me, it works.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's something different, as you said. It gives them something to do. I just wish they would have built up Lacey Evans more before this, but we've said that already. Let's go into kind of the next segment. We then obviously had Bianca Belair, the Royal Rumble winner. She was being interviewed by Charlie Caruso. They basically asked her to reveal her plans. Bianca said she's not going to reveal her plans straight away. Bianca Belair put over Sasha Banks and Asuka, saying it could even be Lacey Evans, which was quite nice. I thought that was quite clever. Asuka then showed up the Raw Women's title. Asuka congratulated Belair for winning the Rumble, but it does not mean she's ready for Asuka. Belair said she's ready. Asuka then said Lacey Evans is not ready for Asuka. Belair said if Asuka handles her business in Elimination Chamber, Asuka will see more Belair on Raw. My thoughts on this, it was a fun segment. It's great to see they're still teasing Bianca Belair and Asuka. It's obvious to me that Sasha Banks and Belair is the way we're going. I enjoyed the segment. What I've noticed about the segment, I don't know if it's just me, Steve, I noticed that Asuka's almost teasing like a heel turn to me. She's almost like too good, like too arrogant again. Like last week she was kind of arrogant. This week she's arrogant again. Are we getting an Asuka heel turn? And what was your thoughts of the segment?
I'd love to see it with Asuka being a heel turn because of the fact that you said that there is a sign of that confidence again, perhaps that almost the NXT confidence she had where she knew she could beat everybody. I'd like her to go back to that character. So if that's the slow baby steps we're getting towards that, I'm all in for it. I'd quite like to see it. But as for the program itself, yeah, I think it was good. But the thing that came out from these is that Bianca Belair is awesome on the mic, and we knew that before, but I don't know, just week by week, show by show, she's proving she is going to be the top star. She's going to be the one in that women's division. There is no doubt in my mind that when it comes to WrestleMania, WWE would be foolish at this particular moment to not put the strap on her.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the thing is with it, I think she's credible. Everyone's behind her as well. So whoever she faces, it will be fun. We're now going to go into this match that's been long built up for the show throughout the night. It's Riddle versus Keith Lee. This match was fun. It was a bit of a dream match, as you said. Obviously, Keith Lee returning. We haven't seen him for a few weeks. Riddle there. Obviously, Riddle last week had been destroyed by Lashley on countless weeks. This was a good match. They got about 7 minutes. So I really kind of enjoyed it. I thought the match was good. Obviously, after the match, we do get Bobby Lashley kind of come out and beat down both wrestlers, totally destroys them. And Riddle obviously gets put in sort of the hurt lock yet again. As always, he seems to be like a regular position for him at the moment. What were your thoughts on the match and the melee that took place after?
This was my favourite match of the night when I'm trying to think back now. It was a couple of days ago, obviously now Raw. But I really enjoyed Riddle versus Keith Lee. Great chemistry between the two of them. Was the right winner as well. It was kind of built like a number one contendership match for the US title. And we've seen Riddle in that position for quite a few occasions over the last few weeks. It was great to see Keith Lee get the rub. And I really enjoyed the interaction afterwards. First time we've seen Keith Lee and Lashley locking horns. And that spine buster attempt, or that sort of one arm kind of spine buster where he picked him up and slammed him to the ground. I don't know, I kind of jumped out of my seat. This feels big. I'm looking forward to it.
Definitely. I think the thing is, I think it's a dream match. Credit to you, Steve. You have done another podcast on your channel that Lashley versus kind of Keith Lee's the route we're going to go down towards WrestleMania. I do agree. I think you're spot on there. I think it's fun. The only question I would have is obviously they did announce a triple threat at Elimination Chamber. Why is Riddle in this match other than to take a pinfall? He's done more jobbings than Barry Horowitz at this point. It's one of them things where I just think he's just there really to be tapped out or to take the pinfall, surely. And this will be the only match really, I believe, that they can get the belt off Lashley if they don't want to go down that Keith Lee and Lashley route. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you make some really good points there. I mean, of course, I can't see anything else than Riddle taking the fall, whoever actually defeats him on the night. Yeah. I would like Lashley to defeat Riddle in this way. I want the one-on-one match because I think that the only way you really get someone over is by actually beating the champion, unless Lashley has big plans for WrestleMania that we don't know about and they want to keep him protected. That would be the way to get the belt off of him now, and it would be okay. But I can still see there being a potential rematch either way. So the match is open. The match should be really fun, and I'm really looking forward to the triple threat. For me, this is the most excited I am for a match on this card, which, judging by the Lashley-Riddle build-up we've had, shouldn't be the case. But the fact Keith Lee's been inserted to it, I'm all in for this, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Definitely. I think Keith Lee gives a fresh sort of approach to it. I think it's something different. It's definitely exciting. I would love to see them play off the fact that Keith Lee's a former NXT champion. They've kind of lost that. This guy was a former world champion. They never mentioned that. That's something they need to start mentioning for me. And I think the thing with it is in ring, this is going to be great. And this will be, as I said, maybe the one match where you can get the belt off of Lashley without him being pinned. But looking forward to it. It's going to be fun. I just like to see them get this Lashley and Riddle feud done. And then Riddle can go back to maybe doing something more, because the way they built Bobby Lashley up, this guy's too good for the United States title. He's outgrown it. This is a guy here that should be, in my opinion, challenging for the world title. He's that good at the moment. He's that over. Have you got anything else you want to add before we go to the next segment?
I agree with you. I think Lashley's in that position. So the belt needs to come off of him. It just if it's going to be this month, next month, or latest April.
Definitely. We then obviously had a video package. Obviously, it showed the history between Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton. Obviously, when they had their feud from SummerSlam last year up to sort of Hell in a Cell and stuff. And obviously, when Drew won the belt back prior to Survivor Series. This obviously then leads to Randy Orton doing a promo. Randy basically did a great promo where he mentions that he's obviously going to get his destiny by getting the belt back. And he said these previous actions like lighting the Fiend on fire and hitting the RKO and stuff are nothing. We're going to see a lot more kind of that. And it's by the time we go into WrestleMania, he'll be the champion. This was a really good promo. Interesting mention of the Fiend. Interesting to see sort of how the Fiend fits in. If we are going to get a long way to come back at the Elimination Chamber, maybe taking Orton out of the match. I enjoyed the promo, and I think it kind of puts over the main event of the show in case people didn't know what was going to happen. What were your thoughts on the promo?
I think you've hit all the points there, really. I think it was a good promo. I think that it obviously elevates towards your main event of the show. The aspect as well that the Fiend has not been forgotten. And of course, Alexa Bliss has been involved as well in a number of Randy Orton storylines recently as well. So it's good that everything's kind of kept this continuity going on. So yeah, no, enjoyed this.
Definitely. We're now going to go to a whole lot to talk about, and we've got to sort of talk about the dream match that's been building, one of the biggest matches in wrestling of all time, and big serious. This is as big as Hulk Hogan Ultimate Warrior at WrestleMania 6. This is up there. This is so big, Steve. We have to talk about it. This is the Lana Weighted Tables match between Nia Jax and Lana. There's a whole lot to talk about again. Sorry about the pun there. So let's go to it. This is obviously a match that's been building for ages and ages and ages. And obviously, during the match, Nia Jax obviously basically does to do a running leg drop on the apron. Lana moved, and then Jax yells, "My hole." Obviously hilarious. Everybody's been laughing. It's got sort of social media going by storm. It'll be a T-shirt. It's probably going to be the next Austin 316 potentially. And obviously at the end of this, we end up with Lana somehow getting Nia Jax through the table, even though she got dominated the whole match. What were your thoughts of this and the whole statement?
Now, I'm going to be honest, I loved it. It's wrestle crap, but I loved it. Tables match, it made sense to do this. Again, I'm kind of weird it was not really given much more promotion than what it was given, but hey, we got this on TV. My whole segment has been actually, the sentence has been screamed out, has been removed now from WWE off YouTube and everywhere. So it's a shame if you haven't seen Raw, you've probably missed that now. But yeah, social media has gone absolutely alight with it. And I think my favorite video that's been made of it might just be Nia Jax and the Seven Dwarfs. You've got my hole, and then the dwarfs going along, which I think is absolutely fantastic. There's a number of them on there, so definitely worth going checking out. And it's my favorite one, and also the cleanest one that I could probably share with you. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I think that Lana needed actually some revenge here. So yes, it's a fluke victory the way she done it, but that tables matches, you don't always get the obvious person winning a tables match. This was a good way to kind of do that. I think Nia Jax has magically got over in this segment as well, with a lot of people. So yeah, for me, this ticked a lot of boxes. It was fun, and wrestling needs to be fun, and yeah, that did that for me. Brilliant.
But for me, I think this is going to get Nia Jax over to the point of, do you remember when Titus did the slide, Titus World Slide, back in Saudi, the Saudi show? I think it's going to be similar to that. She's definitely going to be over. I could see a babyface turn at the end of this kind of. Let's go to kind of the next segment. And so obviously this ends up with sort of Shayna Baszler running out and attacking sort of Naomi and Lana. This then leads to a singles match. So Naomi and Shayna. This was a really, really good match. She only got 3 minutes. Naomi got the pinfall, though, on Shayna, which is quite a big win. And this further cements that Lana and Naomi are going to get this title shot. I thought this was really clever. You're painting your sort of contenders as real challengers. And I really enjoyed it. I'd like to see Naomi and Shayna again. What were your thoughts on the match and a windfall for Naomi here?
Unfortunately for me, that I wasn't as... I think it's right because you're building up the challenges, but for me, I look back this time 12 months ago and think how Shayna Baszler eliminated every single woman in the Elimination Chamber, and she's lost in 3 minutes on Raw 1 year later to Naomi. It just shows how much you can fall from grace in 12 months. But at the same time, The thing is, though, you do need to build your challengers, though. And the fact is, right now, the number one contenders aren't Naomi and Lana. And if you're going to do that, they need to have momentum going into their match. So it is the right thing for them to do it. Perhaps I think my main gripe is I'd like this match to have been longer. I mean, it did seem like perhaps it was, I don't want to say a fluke victory, but it wasn't sort of like mega decisive where you turn around and say they can't do this again. So there are things that come out of this that you can say positive. I just look and think to myself, I wish Baszler was booked as the dominant person that she was in NXT, but that's just a personal preference. As the booking itself, I think it was perfectly fine.
Definitely. I think this Raw Women's title was a curse. Like, women's tag team title was a curse. I think whoever gets involved with it, it just means that they're kind of stuck in rematch after rematch, basically. But it's great they're building contenders up. I guess we're going to get this match at probably Elimination Chamber. But no, it's interesting to see what they do. We're then obviously going into kind of this main event now. It's Drew McIntyre, Randy Orton. This was obviously a non-title match. This was pretty good. It was pretty sort of epic. Everyone's obviously thinking the Fiend's going to kind of run out. Obviously, during part of the match, Sheamus then runs to the ring. He then obviously looks like he's going to run in. That then kind of distracts sort of Drew. Drew then sort of recovers. He then ends up doing sort of a future shot DDT. Sheamus goes into the ring and goes to do a bro kick. Sheamus accidentally hits Orton. This then leads to a disqualification. So your winner by DQ is Randy Orton. My thoughts of the match. It was a decent main event. We've seen this match quite a few times before. And for me, I thought it was okay. I'm surprised they've had sort of the payoff with Drew and Sheamus. I would have thought they'd have kept them two apart in terms of Drew getting any sort of revenge. I think that was a booking error to a certain point. But I get you can't pin sort of Drew here. So what are your thoughts of the match?
It was okay. I felt for me the main event segment was a bit flat, but I feel that what they were looking to do with it was that Drew McIntyre was prepared for however many people were after him. He can cope with the numbers. I felt that was the way, because obviously Orton took the bro kick afterwards, and then Drew got his revenge by hitting a Claymore. But obviously it's one step forward in their feud, and obviously Sheamus and Drew will probably carry on to at least Fastlane at this point. But yeah, I don't know. I don't want to say I was underwhelmed, but I kind of just felt to myself that I think WWE could have done more with this main event. It's a big time match, and sometimes to sort of have that nothing victory felt a bit like WCW to me, especially in its points when it was going a bit off. But I mean, again, it comes down to personal preference. As a booking move, like I said, they want to put over Drew here that he can deal with the numbers. They want to remind us that we've got, Drew and Sheamus somewhere further down the line. Sheamus and Orton will probably have some friction now coming from this bro kick as well, because it'll be every man for themselves in the chamber. So it's not really reliant on face versus heel. It's heel versus heel as well. So it ticks a lot of the booking boxes. It's just for me, like I say, I would have preferred that we'd had a bit more time for this match and been given a more decisive winner. But hey, you need to build storylines going into pay-per-views, and that's something that we've got here. We've got a bit of layer of storytelling going into the Elimination Chamber, and that's what WWE needed to do coming off for the cliffhanger angle for the end of this week on Raw.
Definitely. I think the only thing I would say, for me, there was only like one or two things kind of missing. I think Alexa Bliss, she was obviously clearly missing. But we do probably understand why based on what's going on in real life. I can kind of get that. I do understand that. I'm not going to elaborate sort of obviously on this podcast, but that kind of explains why she wasn't there. But I think her being there would have been fun. It could have been a good addition. I'm really intrigued to see what they do kind of with the Fiend. They've done a really good job of keeping him off TV since the TLC match, which has been great. It's almost like a big return's going to happen. But in terms of sort of this match, the right person kind of won. You want to give Drew sort of Drew's contenders a chance to make it look like they've got a chance in this Elimination Chamber. But one thing for sure, I'll put it out there now: Randy Orton isn't going to win the Elimination Chamber. I'm confident enough. I don't think he will. Do you think he's going to win it, or do you think he's got no chance?
I mean, my initial first thoughts when I saw this was this is 5 people that Drew McIntyre can defeat. So that was my feeling here. I am interested most of this match of how they're going to keep Sheamus and Drew apart, if Sheamus is going to retain, or how they can build that to a future pay-per-view. But I'm with you. I think Randy Orton probably will be taken out via The Fiend, and that will lead to them facing off at Fastlane. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see if that will go down. I wonder if the match should be dragged to Mania at this point, but we'll have to wait and see how WWE's booking decides to go.
Yeah, we'll have to see how the booking goes, as you said. If I was going to score this show, I'm going to go to my final kind of score and thoughts. So if I was going to score this show, I'd definitely go for a 7 out of 10. I thought there's some good content. I was quite entertained by sort of the return, like Shane McMahon. They did a lot. They were panicking going into this pay-per-view. It almost reminded me of let's get as much done. Small criticisms were the fact that they didn't really follow up on stuff, certain stuff they didn't follow up on, and the way they announced matches, like after the moment's gone. I wish if they're going to do these pay-per-view matches, the minute somebody wins, they should be saying that's going to happen. It's only a small thing. What's your final score and thoughts, Steve?
Kind of a similar sort of number. I was sort of flirting around with the 6.57 number, but I think 7 is probably the right way to go here because there was more good than bad on this show. I did enjoy it. I think it was a quicker paced show than what we've had with Raw in recent times. It wasn't so deflated as we get to the third hour, which usually is something that I tend to find myself as a Raw viewer on a weekly basis. The show obviously as always is too long and will never be a 10 out of 10 for me unless they really knock something out of the park. But 7 here is right. They've built up to the pay-per-view. It's a standard of what you need to do when you've got no pay-per-view matches and you've got very little time to do it. You need to throw a card together. They did that this week. They put some fun stuff together as well. Yes, there are a few nitpicks and misses and stuff, but when you have to look at it, I think overall there was a bit of variety in the show. I'm going to go for a whole 7 out of 10.
Brilliant. So this has been Jonesy Chats Wrestling. Just before we end the show, Steve, please tell everybody, I'm sure they know already, about your fantastic channel and what you've got coming up.
Thank you very much. Very kind of you. As always, SCW, the wrestling channel, is available for you to go and check out now. In fact, I highly recommend. There was an interview with myself and Jonesy Chats Wrestling yesterday. So me and George had an interview that's gone on the channel. So I highly recommend everyone to go and check that out if you haven't already. A newest video come today. If you're into AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling, I've done, of course, had to tease it. Had to, especially after Kenta was on Dynamite last week. AEW versus New Japan Pro Wrestling, 10 dream matches. And for people that want to know what's coming up for the rest of the week, NXT Takeover predictions will be dropping tomorrow, and Impact Wrestling No Surrender predictions will be dropping on Friday. So yeah, it's quite an action-packed week this week. But yeah, make sure to come and check out the channel. Really highly recommend it. And George, thank you for letting me plug it as always.
Not a problem. This has been Jonesy Chats Wrestling, joined by Steve from SCW. If you've enjoyed the video, please give us a thumbs up. Please subscribe in the corner if you've not done already, and please leave a comment. And thank you for watching. Have a good week and enjoy the Elimination Chamber when it comes, and also enjoy the NXT as well. Thank you very much.